Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Getting Close Up, the show focused on independent artists and creatives. I'm your host, Danielle Cox, and while I have your attention, go ahead and join the GCU fam today by clicking the like button, subscribing, and making sure you ding the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Today, I have a very special episode for you. As you know, our passion here is to highlight the stories of independent artists and creatives, their highs, their lows, and especially their lessons. I have a collection of very talented people with me today, ambitious and dynamic artists who have taken on the very challenging role of band leader. Let me introduce you to them today. Hi, y'all.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to have this panel-style discussion about the life of a band leader and band life, because I think it's something that, for y'all's experience especially, you don't get to talk to each other a whole lot about and put stuff out there. So I think it's really awesome that we get to do this today. I just want to start out with some introductions. We got some people who are familiar faces. Girl Rachel and Jamogi and Joshua. And you guys also all know each other, which is really cool too. So let's go ahead and start from the top.
Awesome. What's up, y'all? My name is Joshua James. I'm the band leader of Joshua James and the First Aid Kit.
Hey guys, I am Frankie Shorez and I am the band leader of Mercy Fire.
Hello, I'm Jamogi Bridges, and I'm the band leader for Jamogi and the Jammers.
Hi, I'm Rachel McMillan, and I sing in a wedding band, Patrick Lynn's Entertainment.
Nice. Awesome. So a bunch of different experiences, different genres. I absolutely love it. I'm excited to get started. One of the things that when I've been talking to people about being a band leader or their idea of being a band leader, what they think one is even, there's a lot of preconceived notions about it, a lot of confusion. So let me start out by saying, or putting an idea out there. Give me the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of your responsibilities as a band leader.
I feel like you're the face of the band. So that's heavy to carry, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Like you're constantly representing your brand, who you are on social media. I feel like you're pretty much under a microscope at all times.
You're the first foot forward,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yep.
I have
what I
to
would
agree
say.
with that. Yeah. I mean, it's also like, if you don't have a band manager or anything like that, you're also that. It's like you're everything lumped up in one, but the main thing, again, is you're the face of your band, and you're the first one that people will, like, look at and come to whenever it comes to you.
Right, but it's also like, you're the team captain. You're like the organizer as well. So you're like trying to make sure that everyone else in the band, whatever the group vision is, you're the one that's also driving that. So in practice, you're the one that kind of ropes everyone like, hey guys, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to create. How do we achieve that? And so as a band leader, I think you're constantly thinking about that and how you're going to interact with the others to make sure that we're all kind of tight together and making the same thing we want to make as a group.
I'd also like to add in like in the type of music that I do that you're the creator, right? So you're the person that's kind of, like you said, creating this vision and writing these things, and you're the final say pretty much on decisions. So, yeah.
And Jamogi, you mentioned band manager. Like, is there a difference between a band manager and a band leader? Because I feel like some of you take on a lot of the same responsibilities, like the financial stuff, which we'll get into later, and different aspects of it. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, like, again, it really just depends. If you have a band manager, then like, cool. If you're a band leader, then you just kind of like, you focus on the music, on like how you want the band to sound. But then with the band manager part, if you don't have another person who's outside of music managing the band, that ties into your responsibility of going out, seeking a venue, seeking out like, okay, negotiating the prices, making sure that your band gets paid, and really a whole lot.
And I would say if you're a manager, like it takes a lot to get to that point to hire a third party or somebody that can manage your band. So you start off as you're the manager of your band to get to that point. And you have more skin in the game when you're a band leader, manager, managing your own project. And there's a lot more passion that drives that when you're booking. And when you're hiring a manager, I just feel like
It's a business thing.
it's a business thing,
Totally
yeah.
a business thing. I think the level, at least we're all at right now, is as band leaders, we're also band managers. As Jamogi said, like we are booking, we are running social media accounts. We are not only creating and writing our music and practicing, we are spending the time answering emails, reaching out to venues, negotiating payment, which turns out is a huge part of what we do.
You just gotta learn that type of stuff. You gotta learn on the fly. Like there's no class for so you want to be in a band if you want to lead it.
And then
Step one, negotiations.
Like opportunities come up, and then it's on you to manage the band. Now you've got to go to the band and be like, hey guys, this day in 2 weeks is this really cool opportunity. Is everyone available? I sure hope so. And now you're chasing people down via text and phone calls like, hey, I just need a response.
There's also, I think, a lot of managing people and emotions and making sure that, that side of it is taken care of. Your band, these are people, right? And people need you to check on them. People need you to show up for them. People need you to listen to them, outside of the band, and to build these relationships and this rapport with people. So that's the part that I've started diving into more like this year and last year, is just building relationships with people and kind of getting away from that just exchange of you play and we do
it's
it
like more it's transactional. It almost seems
Right.
like, versus melding yourselves into one unit
exactly
for the sake of your music and your art and getting along.
And the passion, the level that's it. And then
That
the
felt
level
loaded.
of passion that comes from people when you've built that rapport, when it comes to your project, changes. So like when you build these bonds with people, they care about you as a person, you care about them as a person, and now you're creating a thing together that has that love and care in it. And that changes the music and the dynamic completely.
Makes it magical.
Yeah, it does.
Love that.
Right.
Yeah, it does.
Like for me, so we've been around as a band for like a year and 4 months now, and something that I've drastically had to like change my mindset is because not only are we practicing and doing the music and managing everything, I'm always thinking about what are our next opportunities, or what are our goals, or what are these dates that we have to hit. And I found it that we'll be all hanging out outside of practice, and my initial conversation is always, so that next show we have coming up, or like this next recording we want to do, and I'm like, I need to calm down. And I have to respect and understand that maybe not everyone else has business mindset, and that's totally fine because that's not their role. And then be like, let's just be casual and hang out and be friends and not talk business about the band every time we're together.
It's just like bubbling up out of you.
Right.
Like there's a gig next week.
I know. I'm like, everyone got your calendars ready? Are you sure?
Christmas presents. It's like, got everyone calendar.
I have gifted a band member a calendar before.
Oh my, that's great.
That is hilarious. And we are definitely going to talk about the emotional toll having to be like, 'cause already just from you guys talking, I've heard several jobs. Emotional support person, financier, manager. Like it's all these different things that are balled up in there. But one thing I noticed as a connection between you guys is most of you started out solo and then acquired a band. Talk to me a little bit about the switch between being a solo artist and then saying, I'm going to take on a band. And you've taken on a couple at one time at once. At one point.
He's doing everything.
A lot of things. Gosh, I don't really know when it clicked, having a band. I remember learning about jams. Is what I remember. I remember doing like the pay to plays and like the hip hop world and starting off there and kind of just wanting something new. And so I ended up just going to open mics and jams, and that's how I learned about like bands. And I realized, this is something I might be able to do. This is something I could probably put together, hopefully, maybe. And I tried that. That was like 4 years ago, and it has been a heck of a ride the whole way. But this particular group that I have now it's a solid group, and the anxiety is down, the stress is down, the work is there. Yeah, because it's been
For real.
a lot.
And so you said 3 to 4 years. You said you guys been together a year and some change.
Yeah.
What about the time frames with the groups that you guys are involved with?
So my background, I didn't start off as a solo artist. I did choir and all that, but I actually wanted to go in like A&R and radio. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help other artists, go after their dreams, and I just wanted to go on the business side.
Right.
But when I was working for a radio station locally, I saw a lot of local talent that we would bring on to open up for national acts. And I would see some of these acts go on, and I was like, I want to do that. Because I could see how happy they are on stage. Because having a singing background, I did that. I was like, I want to do that. I want to open up for a national act. And I just remember just wanting to do that, and I went on social media and was like, hey, does anybody want to start a band? That's what I did. That's literally what I did.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yes, and then so my background in radio, I interviewed some local musicians, and they were like, I'm free, let's jam sometime, and it just went from there. So that's how my first band started. And so starting with local, I sang for a rock band. So, and then it got progressively heavier, so metal band, and then I just do wedding music now.
I mean,
what a transition.
I mean, no, I think there's a connection there between death metal and weddings. Definitely. I see a tie.
I mean, it's all live music. It's all live music.
Bridezillas.
So death art is so metal.
I get it.
We just need a metal wedding band.
Ooh.
That's right.
I wonder if that's a band name. Right?
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome.
Bridezilla would be sick.
I'm not gonna take your idea, but I might, be like, anybody want to be in a band that may or may not be called
Let's call it
Bridezillas?
Bridezilla or something. I don't
Let's call it
know.
Bridezilla.
Maybe
or something.
Bridezilla.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really cute. How long the Jammers been doing it?
The Jammers have been together for a year and some change now. I stopped after the year mark. I stopped counting like the months because I was like, okay, I'm not getting into all that. But like for me, I'm mostly consider it like I'm more of a solo artist who happens to perform with a band. And the reason why I went along that route is because most of the time, from what I've been like observing and like seeing in like movie documentaries of bands and stuff like that, when one person like leaves a band, you gotta like give a whole branding kind of thing with like changing face, and it's like, oh, what happened to this person? And so the Jammers, I kind of think of it kind of like when you go to an open bar jam or something like that. There's all these performers that come together. And then if there's someone that does eventually like get switched out or leaves or anything like that, and another person comes in, there's not much explaining that you kind of have to do.
It's like collective.
Exactly.
People can kind of like come in and go. I mean, like,
yeah,
the idea of a collective is pretty deep rooted. I mean, Wu-Tang.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's a lot of different collectives that are out there. So I get that, but it's like more for flexibility and so how do you manage when things do change? Because it's having that type of structure, it's like a flow of water.
Yeah.
It's going to keep moving. And so that can also create different dynamics. How do you manage that? Because it seems like it could work on some levels, and like at its best, it could be great. At its worst, it could be like, oh my God, what is happening?
Yeah. I mean, like, so from my previous experiences of being in bands before, like my band teacher, Mr. Dame, who gave me like all my like tips and advice and everything, which I appreciate him so much. He was like, you always at least want to have some kind of backup, because some people will be here today, but then they'll leave tomorrow. And so you also don't want to get too tied and too attached, because then like what if something happens or they kind of do something, and if that you gotta like get them out of the band and stuff like that, where it's like it's best that they leave. So I've just always kind of had it to where like, okay, like, we come together and everything, but then I also let them know like, hey, I understand that for a lot of you, a band is not your end all be all.
Right.
Sometimes some people want to go off and go venture into new ideas, new fields. And so I always just tell them like, hey, just let me know like if there's someone else that you recommend, stuff like that. But then in the meantime, I'm also looking just in case, because though, like if me and Rachel were in a band, I would love if Rachel stayed with me throughout the whole entire time. But then Rachel's not in my possession.
Right.
And Rachel has her own life. She has her own goals and dreams. And as a band leader, I have to respect that as well. So when she goes, I'm like, okay, let me just find someone else who can kind of fill in and get what I'm searching for. And plus, you never know what someone new could bring to the table.
Right.
There's a new sound. And I just took the inspiration from Prince. He had Prince and the Revolution, and then he's just changing band members all the time as well through each era. So that's just something that I've always just kind of kept in mind.
Yeah, he may not have always done it in the best way.
Right, yeah.
I will say that, and this is as a rabid Prince fan, but yeah.
I will say that I have seen like two different types of bands. There's artists that play like full band, right? And so it's just like the accompaniment of the artist, right? But then there's like a band, like Paramore, right?
Where
And
it's
it's
like the whole group working together.
these
That is-
members are the band.
They are
Yeah.
Paramore.
Right. And so it's like you kind of, I think my frustration, because I experienced exactly what you're talking about. We've talked about that a
Yeah.
lot, right? And so I think it was hard for me to wrap my mind. I had a lot of switching members. Mercy Fire has looked so many ways. And yes, you remember this, right? So many ways, right? And I didn't like that for a long time because in my mind, the band was these members,
Right.
And so when it changed, it felt like I didn't like that at all.
Yeah,
You know,
it's hard
and
to accept.
yeah, it's
Something
really
that you got comfortable with and close with and started building creatively with, and then now it's changed.
yeah. Now people are changing, and it's just like I've just had so many moments too where it's like we've booked for a show, and then someone's decided to drop out like a week in advance, and it might be a major part of your show, like
Right.
your lead guitarist or your drummer or your bass, and these three people I have learned that you can switch out certain instruments, right?
Yeah.
You could switch out a violin or something like that and it'd be fine, but you can't really switch out your guitar player in that time frame when you're doing original songs, right? Now in the cover world, it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right. No,
Most
I
of
get
these
that.
guitarists know these songs already and they've played them a million times, but when it comes to something that you've created and it's got all of this movement within it, the amount of stress that can bring on of like just, gosh, how do I find someone that's gonna fulfill this position in that time frame, And so my way around it now is because I have these solid members, and so if one of them drops out, I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, we're not replacing anybody. We're just going to do it as a trio, or we're just going to do it as a quartet, or I'm just going to do it with my guitarist, But these faces to me are important,
Yeah.
because I was put in a position where I didn't have control over it. I didn't want the switching, right? But I couldn't, like you said, I don't own people.
Right,
I
right.
can't make you stay,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very poly rules.
No, like
You have control of your own being,
Right.
It just takes your stability, what you know, and whenever you're booking shows as a local musician and trying to build that rapport with venue owners
Right.
and
That's-
bar
yeah.
bar managers, and you're like, okay, I've worked so hard, which in today's day and age with like lack of venues in Kansas City,
Yes.
once you book a show and then you have to drop that they kind of hold that over you, you
Yeah,
know.
they do.
So that's another thing to keep in mind.
Or
is
like
just-
you book a show and then your internal lineup changes like 2 weeks before the show, and now you're like, oh, they wanted this big band sound, and now I'm bringing a 3-piece, and so now we're practicing. I think, like for me, switching from being a solo musician to now having the first aid kit with me, as a musician, I've always been the one who's like in my bed, like playing guitar, like practicing.
Yeah.
And so shows to me were always so controlled. Like Jamogi, I've seen your show, there's intense pauses or like intense sounds. There's dynamics all over the place that I know. And so when we first formed the band, it was teaching everyone, this is how I want this to sound. And then we've also had changeover like Frankie has had, where new members have come and gone just over the year and whatever. And learning that the sound's going to change, but also learning that I like the new sound has been something that I've finally grappled with, because it's like after the first, you form the band and you do some strong shows together, you're like, this is how this song sounds. Then all of a sudden we lose the guy who is playing synth, and now we're doing it with lead guitar instead of a synth, and you're like, how is this going to work?
So different. Yeah.
And but like now we have this cello player that when this whole thing began, I would have dreamed, like I wanted a cello. I've been so sick, but he wasn't on it now. But now, like a lot of these solos that used to be exclusively lead guitar, it's like, no, we'll give it to the cello.
Yeah.
And the new dynamic is like,
Nice.
I'm like, I love this so much. But that's been like the biggest understanding for me is like, allowing change when it happens, because we don't own our band members, understanding that it might be my passion project, but it doesn't mean it's everyone else's passion project.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so allowing others to come in and loving their sound, or bringing someone in and being like, hey, maybe this doesn't work out, and that's also okay.
That's
Right.
also okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to feel like the end of the world. It's
Right.
just sometimes things don't mesh.
Mm-hmm.
And going on to that point, how do you go about looking for people to be in the band? Because the look that I just got, that had feelings attached to it. I felt it.
Yes.
Because, like, I mean, I would think about it as somebody who's never been in a band or anything like that. It's kind of like, you know, being on a dating site or something. Where you're like, I think we might mesh. I think we might be cool. And then
It's-
you go over to their house and they've got heads in their freezer.
I mean, it's like that, because sometimes, yeah, like
That
sometimes
didn't happen.
you can play a show and a friend who also plays music like, hey, I'd love to jam with you guys. You're like, bet. That's like Aiden, our current cello player. He was like, I just want to play with you guys. I was like, perfect. Come and join, and it worked out. And then other times you're like, dang, we don't have a drummer or a bass player, and you're talking to friends who, you know, play music. You're like, hey, I know you play guitar a lot, but would you want to come play bass for me, please? And then what is a temporary gig then becomes like a year and a half later, and now we've been, you know, and it's a lot of being very friendly with a lot of people and hoping they want to be friendly back.
Crossing your
Being a
fingers
little
and
golden
toes.
retriever.
Right.
I think that when people come to you, I think that's when you start finding solid members.
Yeah.
Because that's what I think I had gotten to a point with Mercy where, because it changed so much, where I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna like figure out some solo, because I don't play anything, right? These two play, right? And
Right.
so I was like, how can I do the solo thing and not be in my head about the tracks? Because that's how I started, was with tracks, you know. And so it's like, there's a thing about tracks and
there
the whole,
definitely is.
a whole thing. And so, you know, so it's a whole thing. And so you get in your head about that, and you're like, okay, how do I do this? Now I have to learn like an instrument. Now I have to learn something, right? But so that's where I was at with it. And I just was over the changes. And so when I stopped looking for people is when people started wanting to be a part of what I was doing. And that's when I experienced the stability, because people saw something and related to something and was like, I want to help.
And they want to be a part
make
of
this-
it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
wanna
and
help make
that's
this
exactly
happen.
how you get, you're like, okay, this person wants to stick around, they're sticking around.
Yeah,
They're not looking
yeah.
for anything else, because
Right.
they feel like they belong in whatever music we've created,
Yeah.
they want to also create.
Yeah, it's a relationship. Once you've chosen, and that's kind of just what it is, you know. They make a choice and they stick around, and then it's all
And here we
uphill
are.
from there. This is the most relaxed I've been about bands in a long time.
And I can't
Ever.
imagine you not looking relaxed. You seem just very chill. Like, seeing you frazzled, I don't even know what that would look like.
It would look like stillness on the outside and
wow.
like war inside.
And just war
Yeah,
inside.
yeah.
You brought up something that I do also want to touch on, like the creative process when you are like the Jamogi, the kind of music you did as a solo, just by yourself. Like, you had a lot of, you know, like sometimes there were samples, or it was like kind of like electronic sound and things like. How do you translate that to a band? Like, how do you?
Yeah.
What type
That's
of
great.
issues have you guys had with trying to translate your sound onto a band?
Ooh, okay. So one of the songs that I have is Blackout, which is very much like along that electronic route, kind of everything. And I remember thinking about it like, okay, how do I translate this live? Because you don't have these synths live, and in fact, I don't know any synth players and all this other stuff. And I remember I was on Twitter, and there's this producer that I follow named Boots, and he was like, ask me questions. And I said, okay, like, how do you know if like a song is good or something like that? He's like, well, like, if you can't play it live with live instrumentation, then you got to kind of rethink your, like, what you're doing and like your whole arrangements and everything. So I was like, okay, too late for that, because I already have a song that's out. But then after that, with it, you know, just because it's electronic doesn't mean you have to perform it within that genre. And so I kind of started looking at other genres as well. And I was like, okay, what if I did it like Blackout, if Blackout was performed in Spain with a guitar. And so my very first performance, I had like a flamenco style of it. And then later on, I had tracks. And then after that, one day in rehearsal, I didn't have anything prepared for Blackout. And so I was just kind of like going off a whim. And I was like, well, let's try like a rock type sound kind of thing. And
Yeah,
so
for that.
I just told the guitarist to like try like something like da 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 da. And I was just going with like the whole flow of everything.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, I like how this sounds. And I know that eventually if I were to do it live, it's something that people would be like, oh, I want to listen to this version as well. So just kind of testing out new
smart.
genres. And like, it's like what someone told me before with singing covers of songs. You don't have to sing it in the same key of that artist. So I took the same thing with like the performance of the music. You don't have to perform it within that same genre. Try something like different and like rework it.
Oh yeah, because you have a rock. So like when you are really belting, you are belting it, girl. And growl is in there, and you just like power it through. And then you're at a wedding venue, and they're like, sing close to you.
Yeah.
And you could just like belt it out, but like, how do you manage the different types of styles that you have to encounter?
Well, I feel like when you're singing at a wedding, I get to do a lot of different, just variety of music. So we do top 40, Motown, 80s rock music, which is why I love to sing 80s rock. So, and then I also get some Taylor Swifts and Pinks, which are hard for me actually, because it's like the talk singing. It's at a weird part of my range, right?
I can see that.
But yeah, like I'm used to belting it out. But whenever I sing Taylor Swift, like a lot of people can sing Taylor Swift, like they sing along with her at her concerts, and I'm like struggling to do it by myself.
Yeah, everybody.
Especially doing it for almost 3 hours. So that's a typical wedding gig.
Like, do you find yourself having to like go into a different headspace or something, or like, especially with the delivery, because it's, with the Taylor Swift song, how you deliver it is different.
I
than a
usually
rock
just get the
song.
crowd involved. Like, hey, I know you know
Y'all
this
sing
song.
Y'all knew this part.
She MCs her way through it. That's what we do. Yeah.
And
if
people
it's
love that engagement all
Listen,
around.
especially if it's an open bar,
Yeah.
that's the easiest money you're ever gonna make.
Right.
I love that.
No, I find that fascinating though, having to like figure out how to translate your styles, and then what you said about, okay, I have this song that's this way, and now I have a cello player, and it's like, now it's a new thing that I love. Like, I think that's super fascinating. What is it that you wish you would have known about getting into this before you got into it?
I would say the commitment level.
Yeah.
Like you have this idea in your head, and you don't realize how much hard work actually goes into it. And then, nowadays you have to also do social media. So you're also building your brand and a business. And if you don't have that background, you're not going to really make it very far, I would say.
Right.
Wouldn't you say?
Right.
So being business minded and also knowing like trends and social media trends, I would say, too,
Definitely
as
think
well as
social
being
media.
talented and being able to push it and to new audiences.
Yeah, that's a lot. When I talk to a lot of artists, one of their biggest challenges, besides keeping up with the financial stuff, is social media.
Yeah, TikTok's a killer.
And then you guys are like, kind of, I don't know all of your ages, but mostly in the age range where people would assume that it would be easier for
Right.
you. I look at it and I'm like, I
daunting.
really don't want
Well, I
to
took
do
a
this.
break.
Did you?
Like, I took a bit of a break. So there was a period where I didn't post a whole lot. I was posting on stories because it was so much easier to just do that. Just type, post. And then with like the you never know what the algorithm is doing. And so one moment you're doing well, oh my goodness. And then the next moment it's just like, what is going on?
20 views.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay. And if that, like, the amount, what you see what's doing well, and it's kind of like, okay. And then it's just kind of like, okay, what do I want to do right now? And if that, right now I want to take a little mini break.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just like, I took a break. I didn't think about what I was going to post or anything like that. I was like, I'm not going to promote right now. Like, I just need a moment to kind of work on music, the other music that I really want to do. Like, I know content creating isn't really what I aim for.
It's a job.
But it comes with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know, like, you're on there a lot, like, but you're usually like on liking stuff. like I got that down. So what has been the biggest challenge with promoting yourself? Because not only is it just you as an artist, but there's these other artists that are attached to you that, you know, they're not really taking on the mantle of doing that. Like, this is now your responsibility.
So there's like, I think something that again, starting this, again, I had to learn was that, again, the band's my baby doesn't mean it's everyone in the band's baby. So used to tag everyone in the band whenever we had a post or an event coming up, and then share it to my story and share it to the band's story. And then it'd be like, why are you guys not sharing it to your story as well? Why are you guys not posting about this? And it's like, I've had to take a step back and be like, they're playing with me, they're playing my music, they're having a good time, and it's not their responsibility. It's my responsibility at the end of the day because it's my music.
I think I have mixed feelings about that, right? So and again, I think that this changed because of the members that we have now, right? The level of investment will change based off of the people who are in your band, right? And the relationships and the rapport that you have with these people. So that, I struggled with that because I would be posting stuff and putting stuff out, and nobody would, not even the band itself would be like helping with this process. And I'm like, you know, if you guys, that doesn't work, you know? So it was a conversation that I had to have with my band, and just like lighthearted, you know, and just kind of being like, yeah, you know, you don't really need to hire like a marketing team if your band markets themselves, right? So if you got 5 people, 6 people in this project, and all of these people also have their own friends and family and following, then it is up to the entire band if we want this project to succeed for us to do this. We can't have people in the band and they're not posting and sharing. It hurts. It really does hurt the band, you know?
Like a one-sided relationship.
Yeah, it doesn't work. You would break up with that person, right? And so it's like, but I dealt with that for a really long time.
I think we're seeing, from my perspective in my band, as we've been bringing those people on again who sought us out to play with us, I am seeing interaction from them. And so at first, I was more in the headspace like, I'm just so glad that I have people to play with me, that I'm not going to muddy the waters or, you know, just make anything stressful. I was always like trying to calm everyone down.
That's what it feels like, a lot of talking on eggshells.
A lot of like, hey guys, could you maybe if you want, you could share this to your story. It'd be
if
okay.
you want to, like, no pressure.
Like, no problem.
Right.
I hope to see you at the show, but if not, it's okay. But now we've been through enough shakeups where we actually just had this conversation 3 weeks ago where it was like, hey, this is our path forward. This is what I feel the band should be, and if you guys all seem like you're a part of it and you want to make it happen, this is what I need everyone to do. And I'm finally at a position where I'm with the right people who also have the same mindset. So yeah, now they are sharing. But at the beginning of the game, it was me and just like being just glad people were in the room.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. You're all amazing. It's a lot of
You're
that.
the best. You're the best
ever.
It's a lot of
that.
best.
What
do you mean?
And you mean these things, and you do want them to continue to play with you, but it is a lot of like anxiety and
you don't
just
want to put pressure on them.
Well, don't want to put pressure on them because they don't have to be there. They don't have to be involved.
You don't want like 3 people to quit at once, and now you're like, okay.
They're like, you know what? He asked me to post that TikTok. You reposted. That was the last
I'm not
straw.
doing this.
I'm not doing it.
Because at the end of the day, it's a passion project. We're not getting paid. A lot of us aren't getting paid to do this. It's,
No, I get that.
you enjoy it.
I get that.
I mean, but that was part of the reason as to why I decided to kind of do the artists and then like how to perform with the band. Because again, I didn't want to put that responsibility on someone else. Like, they're pouring so much into this is mostly like a passion that I have.
Right.
And then that like, I don't want them to be like, So it's just kind of like, hey guys, like I'll like create everything and I'll post it. And then after that, I'll send it in like the group, so if they want to share it, they can. But like, there's this whole mindset that I had of no expectations. Like, don't have expectations. Because I've come to learn time and time again, when you expect people to do what you would do in situation or anything, it kind of leads to your own disappointment.
Right.
And so that's why I've just kind of been like, okay, like, I'll handle this part. And if that, like, you guys already put in a lot of work. And I had to take some time to, like, pull back and be like, okay, the stuff that they do. They're coming to rehearsals.
Right.
They're learning all this material.
Yeah.
They're learning these arrangements of stuff because I'm constantly changing things and tweaking. And if there's something in one performance that I didn't like, the next rehearsal, we're tweaking that to see like what else could work. And so I'm like, okay, they already put in a lot, and like really them kind of showing up and being willing to be here and to perform with me on stage, like that to me speaks more than just sharing a
get it.
post.
Yeah.
But like in a perfect world, like let's just take away our ideas about, and even our experiences about how people reacted to expectations. In a perfect world,
That's
would
good.
it not feel good to have a group of people that want to be in it as much as you?
Oh yeah,
I-
That'd be fantastic.
Well, I think that's super important because I think we're always thinking about people's reactions.
Yeah.
And there has to be a stopping point there. Eventually you have to stop because you're blocking your own blessings. You're blocking people that are meant for your band because you're holding on to people that you have to like kind of like just be the perfect person for in order for them to stay, or like everything has to be
Like
good.
you have to manage how you have to manage your level of passion as to not scare them off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you have to like even like almost not be human yourself. So like you don't have emotions. Like this isn't stressing you out. This isn't bothering. This isn't a
Your
lot for
authenticity
you.
starts to leave.
Yeah, like you're managing other people, and so then you kind of like, well, at least I've experienced kind of like abandoning self. Because I'm like, okay, I can't do this thing or have this expectation for my passion project because that might be asking too much of some people. You know what I mean? And you do that long enough and you just realize, man, you know, what about just like having patience and just like waiting for the right people to come?
Exactly.
And let's just do that and like let's settle in that and be at peace with that, because it just gets overwhelming after.
I get that.
Yeah.
I want to touch on that waiting for the right people, because that's something that I went through in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And so, like beforehand, I do like little band assessments, and like I'm kind of like, okay, like, what is this person? Are they feeling in the band and stuff like that? Because you know these are again people,
Yeah.
and that like like I said earlier, sometimes they don't want to be in this for the long run. So it's like you gotta respect that. And so, like, because when I first started off, for my first performance, I just asked people that I knew played the instrument. They said, yeah, we were in it. And then I knew eventually, like, okay, these people are going to leave eventually. So you also have to think about what are you going to do next?
Right.
And so
That's a lot, though.
it's a lot,
You
but
gotta
it's
think about
like,
the
it's the
future and the
reality.
present.
You got to kind of also think about those things. And so, like, I did a whole, like, assessment. I was kind of like, okay, in case one person leaves, I at least need to know that I need to start kind of looking in this direction. And so I had like a member leave. And so I kind of like, okay. So when performances came up, luckily I know how to play an instrument. So in the left hand, I was able to do like the bass parts or even like guitar parts or horns parts. And so like next thing you know, I have someone that comes up to me like, hey, I've been seeing you for a minute, and like, I love what you do, and I really want to be able to be a part of that.
Yep.
And so it's just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, cool.
It feels like
And
the
so-
floodgates open when that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's just like,
It
when
does.
you, kind of like what Frankie was saying, when you let go a bit, then the people really start coming. But I also did search, like when I was wanting horn players, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I don't know any saxophone players or like
Right.
trumpet players.
Yeah.
I stole two. I stole two from another artist. And I was like, hey, and I told them, I was like, just like, you know, like, if y'all want to go and like go back, they're like, no, it's cool. And I was like, okay, like, so I was kind of like, okay, like, thank you. But like,
Oh
it's,
my God.
there's a certain vision that I have for what the Jammers kind of looks like. And I want to make sure that like, I'm able to still find those people, because I want the Jammers to also have their standalone selves to where when you see the Jammers attached to anything or any other artist that they're backing, you're like, oh shoot.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like with the
Absolutely.
wedding band, you know, when you hear a certain wedding band's name, oh, they're gonna be good. So I want that same thing for the Jammers. And so sometimes I do have to actively go out and search, and sometimes I do have to let go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so like I said, a mindset of the brand is going to follow you if you put your all in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Right.
it'll follow you.
Which is why I'm kind of like, more so have some expectations for the band members, but I don't hold it to them because I'm just kind of like the expectations are more for myself. Like, because I know that I'm also the one that's kind of setting the branding for them.
Yeah.
And so, which is why we do what we do and why we rehearse a lot and why we kind of take certain things and we kind of switch it around and give it, I'll say, like the Jammers sound to it.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a lot to kind of take in and juggle, but there's a specific reason as to why. And I'm just really thankful that people have came and the ones that had to go, they were able to find off like what they want to do. And then you have more people that come in and like, so it feels like things are just kind of, it happens when it needs to happen.
Just organically.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I understand all the different perspectives, and I understand that time has a lot to do with your perspectives as well. Like that's what I'm sensing
Yep.
as far as like, you know, how long band life has been a part of your life, having to, you know, gain people and the different aspects. Like I'm hearing a progression, you know, of the mindset, and I'm hearing where Frankie is and like the things that she's had to look back on and the way she's changed her perspective. So I just find that really fascinating, and I know, you know, I'll have to chat about this again to see what has changed and where the mindsets are. So let's get into some of the things that are also other difficult conversations. When you start talking about money, trying to, you know, how to
What
get
money?
it, how to keep it.
All right.
You know,
Where is it?
where is it? Where is she? Everybody in the room with us today? Like this type of thing. So I know I was talking with you a little bit earlier off camera, and you were talking about how like you're trying to find the right merch. Like, let's talk a little bit about the dynamics of what makes money and what doesn't.
Ooh.
I don't want to take the question.
It's
If you know
such
what
a
makes money,
sticky,
please
like,
tell me.
I think there's so many ways to approach making money off of your band, but I think that there's so many, you have to hit your head a million times before you like figure
Yeah.
it out. And that's just like what it is, you know. I think for the first time ever, I finally turned down a gig.
Oh,
I
wow.
never, in the beginning phase, you do not turn
Right.
Yeah, you take
down
everything.
Say
a gig.
yes.
You say yes to
Yeah.
everything. But then it was like, you know, we put out some content that showed like what we offer, and as a band, we just realized the value in that.
Right.
And we were like, you know, we can't just, you know, just keep doing this, and if we're not getting paid, we can't invest in the band, you know. So imagine we get paid at a show, and the money goes to nobody, but it goes into like the band savings. Now we've got in-ears, now we've got monitors, now we've got, if guitar strings break, if violin, or you know, if anybody has an upright player in their band, those are like super expensive to fix those strings. And so if there's no fund, there's no future. There's nothing. So it's okay. I think I'm at a point to where I feel like it's okay to turn things down if I'm not getting any like financial benefit. And if I'm not getting financial benefit out of it, then I'm getting an audience or a relationship with someone out of it, you know, whether it's the venue. Maybe I play for an empty room and we don't get paid for it, but I'm making a relationship with
Right.
the venue, you
Yeah.
know, or the band that I'm opening for, you know. So you have to think about those forms of payments,
Yeah.
you know, and it's a lot. It's a
That's
lot.
good. That's good.
I've had like money negotiating, especially with venues. I've always hated it because being someone who used to work at a restaurant, used to help book bands, working at like mom and pop shops who were like, we're gonna have a guitar player for 3 hours, and knowing like we really didn't have the money for that, but we were still doing it. And so asking for what sum total from a venue to me has always been tough. And like 4 or 5 months ago, there was a venue that I asked for a number, which at the time I thought was really low. And they actually were like, no, that's like too high. How dare you ask us that?
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
like this new venue, I'm not gonna say who they are. They're out of town.
We can say
and-
names later.
we'll say names. And they went on this tirade of just like, how dare you ask for this? But this venue had just opened. These people didn't know what they were doing. But it got to me, and I was like, am I asking too much for this band?
Oh man.
But then
people's
I
words.
just booked we're doing this 2-hour gig in like 2 months. It's the most money we've ever been paid as a band.
Wow.
And they were like, what's your number? And I gave it to them fully thinking they were going to be like, no, that's ridiculous. They were like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I'm like, oh,
Perfect. Yeah.
okay, so we do have worth. We have money in the game, you know?
Yeah.
I think I've had to grow, and because I'm so used to taking every gig or just being an opener and not knowing my worth as a band, where I'm like, now when someone asks what's the cost, I can give them a number and I feel way more confident than.
Standing on business.
And in the past, it would have been like,
Yeah.
could you maybe give me $50, please?
You know what? I'll take it
So
in
many
drinks.
of those.
You have mozzarella sticks.
Yeah.
Hey, we
Yeah.
actually we did take a gig recently. We're playing a coffee shop out of town where it's like this new coffee shop. And like, hey, we can't pay you, but we'll give you food. And I was like, yeah, we'll come out and play you a little something.
You get those from time to time.
Because like, yeah, because
You're
sometimes it's
okay,
like,
I'll
this is
support.
fun, this is chill, like there's no pressure here. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not bringing people out to this place, but it's just like, we'll set up and
Yeah.
put a tip thing out and it'd just be practice, but
Yeah.
Right.
in a
yeah,
coffee
like,
shop
gives
with
you
free
time to
food.
practice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think it depends on the venue and the vibe that you get from the people that are asking this of you. You know, like for me, it's all about energy. So I will do certain things if I like the people and
Yeah.
the staff or like who the owner is. Like if I like them as people, I will do those kind of things. Yeah.
When I was first starting out with the Jammers, there was times where money was coming out of my pocket.
Yeah.
So like the money that I would get from the venue, I had to pay because I had like all these people.
Yeah, you got a big band.
Right, and so I had to, and my mistake was I kept bringing everybody out when I
You
didn't
was doing an
need
MC
to.
Hammer.
Right, I
I don't know
didn't
if you
need to be
understand
bringing
that.
everybody out. So that means when I would pay people, I gave them this, but then I had to dip into my own pockets.
Right.
And so there were like times where I didn't even get to see any of the money. And if I had to wait, I would be like, hey, just wait till my next pay period so I can pay them. And then what hit for me was the month of October. We were at an outside place and the venue was like, yeah, there's going to be like about 50 to 100 people, da-da-da-da. Went out there, it was not that, and it was cold, it was rainy, and I had all these people out here.
Oh no.
And that's when I was like, okay, from here on out, I'm not bringing everybody out, for one. And if there's someone that wants everybody, they're going to have to pay. So I created a little system of like, if you want 5 members, this is how much it is, and this is like what you get. 6, this is what it is, how much you get. 7, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
That's
And
how the
so-
wedding band does it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you.
I took
about
advice.
that.
I mean, I took my inspiration from them. Like,
Yeah, me too.
literally how they
Yeah.
Wow.
have their system. That's what I kind of looked into, and I was like,
I see an
I'm gonna do
epiphany
that.
happening.
It's just, I'm learning that we're all learning the same thing. Because you just saw, we just did a trio set for the first time where I was like, well, they're not really paying us that much, so
Yeah.
I'll bring out these many members. And
Yeah.
that's just cool to be like, okay, cool. So we're all like,
light bulb.
and then when it came to, we're waiting on some new instruments to come in. I want some new players, but instead of going out and looking for new players, I'm in the mindset now, I'm like, well, they're going to show up. And they'll show up. And I'm learning that both of you guys have also hit that same. So that's just cool. Be like, all right, we're on. We did this festival out of town, and I brought the full band. This is back when I didn't know how to negotiate money, and I still don't. So, and I was like, okay, so it's 3 hours south. We camp overnight. We play for an hour and a half, and then we drive home. And I was like, $300. That sounds good, which is way less than it should be. And we got there, played the festival, came back, and the festival owner shot me a message on Facebook saying we didn't sell enough tickets to the festival because they decided to overextend it. And I ended up paying the band out of my pocket for that gig because in those moments, I still take the responsibility as you do, where it's like, I promised you guys you're going to get paid, so you're getting paid. I'm still arguing with this festival to this day because he owes me $300, but.
Wow.
And that's, even as a solo artist, that's something like, I remember when I first started playing on like coffee shops and bar patios, the gig would be over and regardless, like sometimes like nobody came to the bar because it's a Wednesday night and whatever. And then you'd have to hunt down the owner who'd be giving you the runaround and be like, hey man, like we just have a contract, that's all it is.
Yeah.
And he would do everything in his power not to pay you. And then you're like, no, just pay me and I'll leave. But
Yeah.
I did my part of the bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a show recently too where they're like, oh, this was like at like some kind of house show, and they're like, oh, it'll be like $100 for each band that comes in. I said, okay. And after that, they said like, and then the traveling band, there's an out-of-state band. We want to make sure that they also get paid. I said, okay. So I got there, and there's like, it's X amount of dollars at the door. And I see the owner, I see all these people coming in, and I'm like, who's collecting all the money? Like, cause like there's these people coming in, no one's handling the door. Cause I just walked in.
Right.
The guy was like, "Oh, who are you?" I told him who I was, and then he's just like right here talking to some other people. People are walking in, so I'm kind of watching throughout the show.
Yeah.
And after that, like, he's just kind of doing this other stuff. And then at the end of the performance, he was like, "Hey, so we had to make sure that the out-of-state band got paid. So unfortunately, you guys won't be getting paid." I said,
no.
"Okay." So I said, can you at least give me the video and the audio and stuff like that,
Content,
and with
get
it mixed?"
something? Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I can do that." I said, "Okay, cool." So I got that, but then I was just like, "Okay, now I know that like, if they ask me to come back, I'm gonna need something set in stone as well, and if that like, if that can't be met, then we just aren't doing it." And I'm kind of at a place where I can start. I feel like I'm now saying no to certain things because
Yeah.
someone asked me like, "Oh, like here's a concert that you want to do," and I see all these prices next to the tickets, and I'm like, "So is that what I'm paying, or is that what I'm getting for this slot?" "Oh, you have to pay it."
Yeah, no, that's an instant no for me.
And I was like,
Absolutely not.
I said,
Okay.
"Oh, okay, well," and then I was like, "So then how do I like, is money like split at the end or something?" "You just get it like how many tickets you sell." I said, "Oh, okay, well,
Fair
we won't be
place.
interested. I'm sorry."
We probably got contacted about the same thing because I
I've
know what you're talking
actually
about.
heard that. I've heard what you're talking about before, and so I have an idea of where.
I'm kind of in the. I'm not doing a single pay to play.
No.
If they say sell 15 tickets,
No.
or it's out of your pocket, I'm like, I don't want to play for you.
Right.
We just did this show with a friend's band manager that we all know who this friend is and their band manager, but I won't say names.
There's
And-
another one.
There we go.
Add it to the list.
And we did the show. They sold tickets, did not pay the band, and then tried to get us to come back 2 weeks later to play another gig. And I had to say no. The band manager proceeded to call me and say, "Hey man, we're gonna pay you for last time. Sorry, And I was like, "Look, I'll come out and do like some solo stuff, but I can't bring the band out because if you're not paying us, I can't ask
No.
Yeah.
for these people." And then the show got canceled. We never got paid. So.
That's a
I
really
would say-
important part is like the band, the people that are in your band, like when people are asking you to bring out your band and don't realize sometimes who's in your band.
Right.
And that these are like, I play with Katie quite a bit. You've played with Katie.
Mm-hmm.
When you have people that are like highly trained and
Right.
skilled, and this is that they do this for a living,
Mm-hmm.
and venues don't even think about like when I'm asking for your band, I'm asking for these people.
Right, and their time's worth money. Like
That's
Yes,
why you have
exactly.
to set it.
Yeah.
You have to set the
Rehearsals.
tone.
Yeah,
Right. On
and
top of that.
rehearsals and the writing and all of just everything that's involved, and it's just like I don't know where, like in what world that's appropriate is kind of where I'm at with it.
And they just like, you want us to show up, you want us to entertain the people that you have in your venue, but you don't want to pay us. So
Right.
It's wild.
Right.
And
Yeah.
like your world is pretty structured, I imagine.
Yeah,
These
but I
worlds-
I
Rachel gets her
started out.
coins.
I started out in local music, so I get it. And like I've been around in the Kansas City music scene for over 10 years, so I know what it was like pre-pandemic and having all those other music venues and having to sell tickets and having to front money for merch just so you could hope to sell enough to make profit, and then cutting out the middleman so you're not working with a promoter so that you could make profit.
Right.
So there was all of that, and like dealing with percentage of ticket sales. If you sell this amount, you only get they're $10 at the time, and you only get $3 or something crazy from every single
It's like
ticket.
those little chocolate bars they sell at the schools.
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is on my talent. This is
Like-
the chocolate bars.
Yeah, so whenever we were making money with my band at the time, we would sell hard copy tickets.
Yeah.
That's how we would make money. And like I luckily have a lot of family, so that's who I would get. But
Yeah.
eventually you run into an issue where you're like, if I play too often, I'm asking the same people, and I'm not performing in front of the same or a new audience, unless you're playing with out of town bands.
Right.
So we started to do like show swaps. So we would contact bands that were in different cities, and we're like, hey, would you host us in Chicago if we bring you to Kansas City? And that's how, and we would do a guarantee of maybe $200, $150, and we would pay out of pocket for that, and
Yeah.
maybe hope to make that money back whenever we got enough money at the. There's a lot of like business transactions that go in your head when you're thinking about this stuff. But that was my world's, pre-wedding band.
Yeah.
So yeah, show swaps really helped, get your band out in front of new places and, traveling.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like something that when we're booking shows and gigs is there's like certain venues that we've played a lot, or you'll see like 3 weeks in a row, maybe we'll have like shows booked, but you realize, oh, we're kind of playing for the same audience, and is it super beneficial for us to go back out? And I love my friends, and I love the people who come out, but is it like, do I want to be performing in front of these same people all the time, or maybe taking some time off and trying to get these shows where, we can get a mixture of the new audience, that way it's just not the same people over and over again, so more people can find out who you are.
I think realizing how big the world is a heck of a thing. I think realizing that, like, the market is not just where you're at, right? You don't have to just keep looking for these venues within the city, especially as an original band. I think a cover band can do that. A cover band can play the same venue repetitively because that's what people are going to the bar to listen to,
Yeah.
Right.
But an
They know what
original
they're getting.
band, an original band, most of these people don't know your songs. Most people don't know you, so your job is to like keep going out and getting exposure and traveling and being in front of these different audiences and things like that. And that's kind of where I'm at with it, is it's just time to expand.
Would you want to speak to that part too? Because sometimes you'll have people who are like, for example, or bands that have all these followers, but then when it comes to a live show within the city, it's like 5-10 people.
Right.
And it's kind of like, okay. And like, it's like you got to be careful with like how you market as well, but then you also have to build yourself within your city too.
Yeah.
And so like, for me, like my main thing, I want to build like a strong foundation within the local market. But then I'm also thinking like, okay, the world is not just Kansas City, Missouri.
Right.
The world is also not just the United States, because there's still other continents out there. And so it's kind of like I'm using my social media pages mostly to build connections with people in other different areas. For example, Chris Pierce, someone that I collaborated on, he's all the way out in Georgia. We met each other because of some friends that I made through Twitter, and they have artist friends. And after that, Chris was just one of those people that they knew. I reached out to Chris, and Chris was like, oh yeah, I'd love to. So now Chris is building his audience in Atlanta while also coming over to Missouri. And that I'm gonna eventually be doing the same thing, but he also like helps and gives me connections to these certain people. And so that's why I'm really trying to make sure and make those networks with people in different areas as well.
Yeah, you're good for getting in somebody's DMs to get them on the phone. Like, we already know. They have to check your episode to get that story. Because you will do it. Now, right in the DMs.
Right.
I want to go ahead and have you guys give your social medias, let everybody know at home where they can keep up with you guys and see what's next. We'll start with you, Josh. We're going to go from the beginning.
All right, sick. You can follow Joshua James and the First Aid Kit on Instagram at Joshua James Has a Band, because I am not original. And Spotify, you can listen to our music at Joshua James Warren. That's also my Instagram handle.
And I am Frankie Lynn Shorez. My band is Mercy Fire. You can find us on Instagram under frankielynn.shorez. And we just released a single called Wanna Be Bad. It's everywhere. You can find it everywhere. And Flew the Coop. So check it out.
I'm Jamogi Bridges. You can follow me on Instagram at jamogi.bridges. That's JAMOGI.bridges. Or you can follow the band Jammers Crew. The Instagram handle is Jammers, JAMMERS.crew, CREW.
And I'm Rachel McMillan. You can follow my Instagram at Rachel McFeelingGood.
Which I always forget that's not your last name, girl.
You can follow me for wedding band content and just keep up with
your shenanigans.
Yeah, got a lot going on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you got something out of it. I feel like you did.
Thank
You learned
you.
more about your connections and the things that you've learned from each other. And so I'm just looking forward to doing more things like this.
Absolutely.
You guys are great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
That wraps up the show. I'd
was
like
gonna
to
say,
thank
what's one piece
my
of
panel
advice?
of
Okay.
band leaders
Oh,
with me
yeah.
for hanging out, talking with me, and hitting on so many topics. They shared their experiences, and it was amazing. If you had as much fun as we did, make sure that you like, you comment, and you subscribe so that we can keep bringing it to you. New episodes of Getting Close Up air bi-weekly on Fridays. And make sure that you also check in to me and Dee as we give you the tea on what's hot and what's not with GCU Review. You don't want to miss it. Thank you guys again for watching. You're the best part of all of this, and I'll see you again soon for another Close Up. I'll be checking for you. Bye.